by the Vice Chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, by the person of Geneva John. Thank you. So this program is actually in collaboration with the National Human Rights Commission and the Association of Prevention of Torture, APT. So we're doing this program in collaboration with them, and it is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy and the Legal Empowerment Fund. So I'll call on Ms. John, Ms. Geneva John, to come give us the opening remarks. Thank you.
Representative of the UN Resident Coordinator, I think I saw Yvonne this morning. Yeah. Co-founder and Senior Technical Advisor with representative of government institutions here present, representative of various embassies. I think I saw a representative from the German embassy, international partners, victims and representative of victims here present, CSOs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the media. Good morning to you all. On behalf of the National Human Rights Commission, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us in this very important meeting. We also our institution also wants to thank Wave for the initiative. They've been doing it now for the past 3 years, bringing us to remember victims that have suffered under the previous regime. In fact, maybe I would pause and ask all of us to stand for 1 minute in remembrance of those who died. During the last regime. Victims, and to reaffirm the absolute prohibition of torture in the Gambia. The Gambia ratified the Convention Against Torture in 2018. In 2023, it domesticated the convention through the enactment of the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act, which marked a significant milestone in Gambia's transitional justice process, and it showed government's commitment to combating torture in all its forms. The legislation itself aimed to prevent and eradicate the use of torture and other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment of punishment, and to ensure accountability of acts of torture. It recognized NHRC as one of the institutions that torture acts can be reported to. The topic this year is very clear. It's healing through rehabilitation, restoring dignity, and promoting accountability. I want to take just 1 minute for us to reflect. I personally, since the TRRC and the white paper, because our office was mandated under the white paper TRRC to monitor the implementation of the recommendations. If you all remember, 265 recommendations were delivered to the president. 263 were adopted, only 2 were rejected. And the implementation process is still on. In fact, currently in my office, there are stakeholders there. We invite stakeholders every 3 months to our office to see how fast institutions are adhering to implementing recommendations that affect their institution. But I always take time to go back to some of the evidence, to witness statements that were delivered live on TV. The pain, the suffering, plastic bags overhead. Sometimes you have to take people back to move forward. Plastic bags melted and put on bodies, electrocution, certain objects inserted in people, adults, parents, stripped naked to get statements and evidence from them. locked in dark rooms, uninhabitable, a detention center or rooms in the mile two prisons that are still, and I use the word still, not fit to put human beings in. So we still have a long way to go in terms of eradicating torture in itself, because torture has the physical harm on the body, but the mental aspect is still what a lot of us are grappling with. And I know there are victims in this room. I saw some of them down. The pain, and that's why the word today is rehabilitation. How do you get them out of that? It's a process for which we have a victim center, and we work closely with them that are also trying to assist victims to get to the level we want them to. The key focus this year for the Gambia, we have adopted the prohibition of torture. We have domestic legislation. But the question as national human rights institutions will always ask, has it changed? Has it stopped torture in totality? And as you deliberate today, the topics you'll be addressing, you will focus on those. You'll be looking at the upcut. You'll be looking at issues. Let me just briefly, we're looking at the local service providers in rehabilitation and accountability. You will deal with the restoring dignity, victims' perspective. These are topics you'll be discussing today. I won't go into details. You will also look at the torture-free trade, treaty presentation. So as you sit and you deliberate, actively participate and give your view so that we'll know the next year when we come, we might probably have a better report to give than we are giving today. The National Human Rights Institution, you all know, is the institution mandated to promote and protect human rights. On the 12th of March this year, just about a couple of months ago, we organized an advocacy meeting to promote the ratification of the optional protocol for the Convention Against Torture, OPCAT. Advocacy of this convention will enable international organizations to make sure that Gambia has what it calls a national preventive mechanism. And there will be a creation of an international one that will be coming regularly, but the local one is of most importance to us as an institution. Our institution does regular visits to prisons. We normally coordinate with some of you, our partners. We do regular visits to prisons and places of detention. In fact, currently, we have created a thematic committee on places of detention, and I happen to be the commissioner in charge. Last year, we were in some of the prison cells, and we have a whole report. Our State of Human Rights will guide some of you as to reports we give about the prison conditions, that there is still a lot more to be done. Because those same conditions were there when a lot of victims, like I said, I went back to TRRC evidence that was given, how they were dumped in cells, uninhabitable, not fit for human consumption. Just a few months ago, we had a case where we had to get our investigators to go to impromptu, to go to mile 2, where an officer was put in a cell that had no window but just a hole. And fortunately, with conversation with the police, and they do collaborate with us, and we are really happy that they were able to remove him from that cell. But some of those cells like that still in existence. And we hope that if we have this national monitoring mechanism that can work closely with our institutions and CSOs and stakeholders, we can monitor more, not only the prison, but even police detention centers. Some of them are also awful. Like I say, our State of Human Rights report carries this. Next week, we'll be having, our institution will be having a whole week with prison officers. And one of the issues that will be presented to them will be the Robben Island guidelines. And some of us would know, and those guidelines is about prison conditions, the way prison staff should act or be able to work with, make sure that prisoners are not tortured in any way, shape, or form. I earlier spoke about the fact that we implement, where the commission mandated to implement the TRRC, and we hold visits every 3 months. And also the fact that we monitor places of detention. The NHRC, therefore, and I'm talking to Wave, our CSO partners here, I see Ministry of Justice stakeholders are all present, that we are ready to stand, to support, to advocate, and to hold accountable, all in the service of a Gambia where dignity is protected and justice prevails. This dialogue not only serves as a moment of should not only serve as a moment of reflection, but also as a renewed call to action to strengthen collaboration, to build institutional capacity, and establish an effective national preventive mechanism that meets international standards. I want to use this opportunity to commend the government's stated commitment over the years to ensuring that torture has no place in our society. And we urge all stakeholders, civil society, security institutions, lawmakers, and international partners to work together to make this commitment a reality. On behalf of the National Human Rights Commission and our partner Wave and APT, I extend our deepest appreciation to all of you for gathering here today on this very significant occasion. I thank you all.
With that being said, would have the next person, which is the United Nations Resident Coordinator, who is here present with us today, Mr. Kai Frederick Paul, to come give us the keynote address and finally declare the session open. Thank you so much for coming, and it's a pleasure to have you here today.
The opportunity to speak to you. I want to apologize first for the delay. The event was supposed to start at 9, but it got delayed on this side and therefore on my side as well. I will provide now the keynote address. Honorable Madi Cisse, National Assembly Chairperson of the Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Standing. Honorable Madi Cisse, National Assembly Chairperson of the Human Rights and Constitutional Affairs Standing Committee. Distinguished Vice Chair Geneva John, Honorable Commissioners and staff of the National Human Rights Commission, Ms. Priscilla Cisse, founder of the Women Association for Victims Empowerment, honorable members of the National Assembly here present, representative of the government, esteemed partners of civil society, international organizations, the media, UN colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a solemn responsibility to join you today as we mark the International Day in support of victims of torture. A day that compels us to reflect, to reckon, and above all, to recommit. Torture is not simply an abuse of power. The speaker before me has made that very clear. It is a deliberate act of cruelty that denies a person their right, but also their humanity. It constitutes one of the gravest violations of international human rights law, absolutely prohibited under all circumstances as enshrined in the Convention Against Torture, other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, but also as enshrined in the laws of the country here. The Gambia's ratification of this convention and the enactment of the Anti-Torture Act are significant milestones. They represent a national acknowledgement of past wrongs and a pledge to uphold the dignity, the right, and safety of all individuals. Equally notable is the role of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, as known as the RRC. Its work has given voice to the silence, exposed the pattern of abuse, and laid the foundation for an inclusive and honest national reckoning. The TRRC legacy must now be translated into action through reforms, prosecution where warranted, reparation, and guarantees of non-recurrence. Yet, legal framework alone cannot eliminate torture. Laws must be implemented, Institutions must be empowered, survivors must be supported, and the society as a whole must remain vigilant. Preventing torture requires a multifaceted approach. Robust, independent oversight mechanisms are needed for prevention. Genuine political will that transcends administration and the active, meaningful participation of civil society, as we are seeing today, of the victim groups and also of the human rights defender. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, the prevention of torture is intrinsically linked to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the goal number 16, which calls for peaceful, just, and inclusive society with accountable institutions at their core. And actually, it's the most important SDG, the SDG 16, because the peace and the institution will unfold all the great things that sustainable development must and will provide. We cannot speak of sustainable development if we do not address past and ongoing injustices. We cannot build peace on foundations that are cracked by impunity. Impunity must stop. In this regard, I really salute the Gambia for the progress made so far and encourage the next critical step, the ratification of the optional protocol of the Convention Against Torture, OPCAT. This would enable the establishment of a national preventive mechanism and send a powerful signal of the Gambia's commitment to transparency, accountability, peace, stability, but also to the international best practices. I take this moment to recognize the tireless efforts of the National Human Rights Commission, whose independence and integrity remain vital in this transitional journey. I also applaud particularly the Women's Association for Victims Empowerment WAVE for organizing the 3rd Annual Human Rights Festival, a platform that not only denounces torture but also centers the voice of survivors, empowering them to shape the national narrative. To the survivors of torture, your resilience is a testament to the unbreakable human spirit in you and in all of us. Your courage to speak, to remember, and to demand justice strengthens us all. To the institution, partner, and activists gathered here today, your work ensures that torture is not forgotten, that justice is not deferred, and that it never shall happen again. The United Nations here in the Gambia and globally remains your committed partner in this journey. We stand firmly with the Republic of the Gambia, with its civil society, with its survivors, with its women, its boys, its girls, with everyone for the implementation of the TRRC recommendation in the strengthening of the democratic governance and in safeguarding the human rights of every individual without exception. In closing, let me reaffirm a simply but profound truth. Torture has no place in any society. Not now, not ever. Let us work without tiring to ensure that justice, dignity, and non-recurrence. It must never happen again. With this word, I am pleased to declare the commemoration of the International Day in support of the victim of torture officially open. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the UN. They have been one of our key funders and partners since inception, supporting all our programs, our different projects and different initiatives. And it is a pleasure to have you here today. And I'm going to start from where he ends up, which says torture has no place in our society. And this is actually an active call and our collective effort to see how we can work towards the prevention and prohibition of torture. So before the commencement of the panel discussion, we're all going to go down to have a group photo. Then we can move into the panel discussion. Thank you.